Hello everyone, this is Ted from Old City Fly Shop, and today I'm going to tie for you the Gurgler. The Gurgler is a classic fly pattern. The recipe I'm going to show you today is the one that we use in our Old City Fly Shop Gurgler Kit, which includes all the materials you need to tie 6 of this fly without any waste. So let's get started. The hook that we're going to use is the Gamakatsu B10S Stinger hook. We like this hook a lot because it's got a long shank and a nice deep bend and a nice sticky point. Great for gurglers. We're going to tie in some thread. This is a 210 denier wax thread from Sightcast, and I'm going to start it about 2 eye lengths back from the eye of the hook, and I'm going to extend it back to the tip of the hook. And then I'm going to lay down some thread in spiraling wraps, concentrating on the back half of that thread base, because we need some thread here for glue to soak into whenever we glue down that foam for the body. The first material we're going to tie in is some fin raccoon for the tail, and we're going to tie that in 2 colors. Here I've got a piece prepared. This is about 1/4 inch of purple fin raccoon, and it's about twice the length of the hook shank, and I'm going to tie it in on top of the hook shank with a couple of wraps. And I'm going to get an equal amount of black fin raccoon, about 1/4 inch. And when I prepare this, I'm not going to comb out any of the underfur. I want all the underfur because that's what's going to give this fly a lot of body. I am going to pull out some of the guard hairs that might be sticking out willy-nilly all over the place. But once they look pretty good, I'm just going to tie that in right on top of the purple. Now I'm going to cover the butt ends of that hair with thread. It's just going to be one more amount of material for that glue to soak into. I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple of locking wraps, though even though this is a natural material and it probably doesn't need it, it's just a habit I have with tying in large bushy tails like this as locking threads. Clean that up a little bit. There we go. That nice long tail is going to flow very well in the water. The next material to go in are going to be some legs. I'm going to use the Sightcast marsh legs in clear black with a purple tip. 1 leg for each side of the fly. And I'm going to tie them in by folding them around the thread and tying them on the underside of the hook, one on each side of the fly. Kind of like a 5 and 7 position. There we go. Once I've got them tied in, I'm just going to hold them back underneath the tail. I'm not pulling on the legs. I'm just kind of holding them in position. I'm going to kind of lock them in place like that. And then while I've got them in my hands, I'm going to trim them just a little bit so they're just short of the very tip of the tail. Now that our legs are in position, the next material is going to be a collar of flash to go around the front of the tail, and we're going to use some UV polar chenille in black UV. It's got little purple highlights in it. I'm going to tie it in right at the very base of the tail. We don't need much of this, just 2 or 3 wraps, close wraps. And all we're really doing is putting a little bit of flash in the fly, and we're creating a transition point between the tail and the body of the fly. Once that's in, I'm going to straighten it a little bit. I'm going to kind of fold it back, and I'm going to clean up the wraps a little bit, but I'm not going to comb it out or anything. I find that combing this material makes it stick out even more. If I've got any pieces that are really straggly, I'll just kind of pull them out of there and be done with it. The next material that's going to go in is going to be our Sightcast Topwater Fly Foam strips in purple and black. This is a nice product. It's a nice material. For this particular fly, it's the perfect size and shape. You can certainly cut your own foam. I'm not sure you'll save a whole lot of money doing it, but you might. But regardless, this is about the size that you want. I'm going to lay down some glue on top of the hook shank. And you got to be careful when you're planting your fly. If you want the purple side of the foam up when your fly is finished, you want to put the purple side down when you're tying it in. And I'm going to put the very end of the foam about halfway between the base of the tail and the eye of the hook, in the middle of the foam, and I'm going to start with just a few loose spiraling wraps going forward. Make sure my foam is centered on the fly. Then I'm going to put loose spiraling wraps going backwards, and I'm going to check to make sure that I'm going far enough back that when I fold this up, I don't end up with a big gap between my tail and the foam. So I'm going to go a little further back. Once I've got my position, I'm going to go back and forth in spiraling wraps so I don't cut my foam. And I'm going to increase the pressure on the thread each time until I have a nice, tough base right here that is going to be a secure point for this foam in the fly and keep it in position. The next material going in for the body is Microflex Soft Hackle Chenille in medium black. I really like this material. It's like pom-poms on a string. It's a soft material, so it flows very well in the water, maintains its shape very well also. So once I have it tied in, I'm going to extend my thread almost up to where the bare shank starts, maybe about 3 or 4 eye lengths back from the eye of the hook. The first wrap is going to go up and over as normal, and the second wrap, this is important, goes behind that first wrap and up onto the base of the foam. And then I'm going to bring this material forward. Make sure you don't trap a leg in there like I just did. So you catch up with your thread. Now we tie it in. And when you're done tying it in, you want to make sure that you still have plenty of space in front of all that material to tie your foam in at the front of the fly. When we fold the foam over, we want to make sure that we don't see light in between the foam and the body of the fly. So you don't want it to be up like this. That's not going to float very well in the water. It's not going to act very well. It's not going to be able to cast very well either. So you want to fold that body down so that it's nice and tight over top of that Microflex body. Before I tie it in, I'm going to apply a liberal amount of glue at the tie-in point. Fold it down. That looks good. Now I'm going to put in a couple of wraps, not super tight yet because I don't want to cut that foam. Now I'm going to cut off about 1/2 inch of foam from the top of my bill there, put it over top of my wraps, and now I'm going to crank those in a little bit harder. Now I'm going to tie it off in front, and I'm going to trim my bill at the height I want it to be. Now this little piece of foam, it does a few things for you. 1, it adds more material to the fly, helping it float higher in the water. 2, it's a contrast point, so I have purple, black, purple, make it easier to see on the water. You could even use a non-scrap piece of foam and put in a piece of orange or hot pink foam there to make it even more visible. And then the other thing it does is it gives you more material so you can really crank down on those threads and tie it into the glue so it stays in one spot. The last thing to go on is a weed guard. And for a weed guard, I'm going to use a 4-inch piece of 20-pound hard mono. I'm going to fold it over in the middle and just pop it once to get a nice little crimp to it. Now I've got this V, and I'm going to straddle that V over the hook shank. Now I have the top of the weed guard way up high, and that makes it easier to tie in. So I'm going to go, while I hold the legs backwards at the bottom, I'm going to go over the top of the weed guard 3 times loosely. Now I'm going to hold the top of that weed guard back and go behind the legs and over the top of the hook 3 times loosely. Now I'm going to pull down on the legs just until the top of that weed guard is about 2/3 up the height of the bill. So it's coming in about right here, right now. And that's going to allow me to keep the bill pointed up. It's going to support it. Now I'm going to take that weed guard and I'm going to separate the legs and make sure I've got them facing the right side. Sometimes they cross over. And I'm going to hold the leg that's away from me, while I wrap behind the base of the leg on my side on the bottom and over the top in front of the weed guard as I go across. And I'm going to go in that direction 3 times, locking that leg in place. I'm going to switch legs. I'm going to grab the leg that is on my side, and I'm going to go over the top of the hook and then behind that leg on the bottom 3 times. Now I'm going to go behind the weed guard entirely, and the weed guard may look like it's definitely not look like, it's definitely kind of jerking around places, but we're going to straighten that out in a sec. And now when I whip finish it, I'm going to whip finish diagonally across the front of the weed guard on top and underneath the weed guard on the bottom. 3 or 4 wraps. I'm going to clip that out. Now I'm going to take my weed guard and I'm going to measure it, because we want the weed guard to just reach the same length as to the tip of the hook. Cut that out like that. Now before I glue anything up, I'm going to take it out of the vise. I'm going to make sure that my foam is straight, even though I'm probably not going to be able to turn it a whole lot because of the glue. Make sure the top of the foam is flat, and make sure my weed guard is straight. Now it's okay if these little weed guard legs cross, because all these are going to do is keep the fly from bumping into a piece of weed or grass, so it really doesn't matter. So once it's straight, I'm going to put it back in my vise, turn it over, and I'm going to apply my glue on the underside of the fly behind the weed guard and really soak it in to further cement that glue in, or that foam in place. And I'll put a little bit on top of the threads as well. And that's it. That is the size 2 gurgler that we tie here at Old City Fly Shop.